We're live.
We're live.
We're live. Hello, Siobhan. Welcome, Julie and Natalie. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Leadership by Design. We are here to outline the opportunities that people have to.
Sorry, I thought
Well,
I turned
that's
that
great
off.
to know. I guess we'll start again. Hello, Siobhan and Julie and Natalie. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Siobhan and I meet every Tuesday night at 6:30 Eastern time to talk, or 6:40, whenever we get it live going, to talk about leadership by design, the opportunities that people have, the pitfalls that people have gone through, whether in creating their business or having been in business for a long time, or just looking for accelerating whatever they're up to in their lives and actually creating the outcome by design, step-by-step processes. And along with it, obviously, comes those trip ups, those pitfalls, those things that we don't like and sometimes don't want to have to deal with, but they happen. And we know we all go through them. Everybody does. But some people sometimes feel alone in that. They think that, oh, I'm going through this and I can't really talk about it because then people are going to know that I'm not as good as I am supposed to be in the outside world. So they don't talk about it. So we like to talk about it. I am more than happy talking about my mistakes because I've done a ton of them. I want to be I want to be as clean as possible on this conversation, but I've done a lot of them. I always say I spent a lot of money on my dumb tax over the years, and while learning, I get the opportunity to be able to share it with other people. I know Siobhan has spoken about hers as well. And hi, Siobhan.
Hi.
What's up?
Yes, I think that it is no secret that I am happy to share all the mistakes that I've made along the way because I've made the big ones. So, and some of my big ones go along with what we're talking about tonight, Craig, which is in the area of finances, right?
Mm,
Finances for your business, finances for yourself. And so one of the things that we always talk about is in the leadership by design, in leading the business that you want, building the leaders and the culture that you want, we have to start with the outcome in mind, right? I think we've talked about that before on many shows and in goal setting and planning and dealing with what we want to do. And so you have to start with the outcome in mind. And that is true, of course, in finances and knowing what you want. And I think I've shared before on the show, right, where we talked about finances a little bit before on another show. And I talked about the 7 financial plans that every business owner should know and be aware of and monitor and track and measure in their business. And how when I first started my own business, how I didn't track anything in financial wise, except for the money coming in. And then suddenly I was like, oh, that's all I cared about, right? Well, how much money's coming into the business and not what was going out. And then, of course, at the end of every month was shocked to go, why is there no money in my bank account when I have, this much money coming in every month? And then was like, oh, wait, I guess I should be tracking expenses and everything going out the door as well, which sounds really common sense when you say it out loud now in the long run, right? But who knew? Like we aren't taught, I just wasn't taught this stuff, right? Law school didn't teach me how to do finances. So it's certainly something that everybody needs to focus on. And then as Julie and Natalie, I'm going to introduce them in a minute, can also talk about and focus on is not just your business finances, but what that means for you as a business owner and your personal finances and planning for the outcome that you want, not only for your business and your business financially, but for what you want and what you want financially. So one of the ways that I learned how to do that was to track backwards, right? What do I want my personal income to be in 5 years? And then where does my business need to be gross revenue wise to pay me that personal income? And then what does that mean for now? How many new clients do I have to, how much do I have to have? How much gross revenue every month? What does that mean for me? Um, so welcome, Julie and Natalie. Why don't you both give brief introductions of yourself? And then I'm sure Craig and I will start with the, questions that we have for you on finances. So, all right, Natalie, hi.
Hi, hey everybody. I know I was looking Julie, me.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, good evening to you. My name is Natalie Freeman. I'm a mompreneur, mentor, money lady. I help people maintain and establish their wealth. I've also been a business owner for the last 11 years, so it is something near and dear to my heart. So I do specialize in helping business owners come up with a sound financial strategy, but not just business owners, the people too behind the business. Um, yeah, and I also do motivation, just to kind of keep people on track financially, unfinancially. And then I have a leadership group called Leading Ladies, and it's just inspiring women just to really bloom where they're planted and be influential in their sphere of influence. So thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. So Julie, welcome.
Julie Shopa, financial healer at Clarity Finances, where we help business owners have a better relationship with their money. Starting with making sure that they know their numbers, which is the bookkeeping piece. A lot of people don't like bookkeeping, so they just don't do it. And as you had mentioned before, if you're not tracking both sides, the money coming in, which is the fun part to track, well, usually it's the fun part to track, and the money going out, then you don't have that full picture and you're not maximizing, what's going on in your business.
Yes. Welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for being here. And so Craig and I had started a series of some of the top mistakes that business owners make. And one of those on the list, Craig, that we had just talked about, and I want to say hello to everybody watching us live, because we have many people watching us live right now. So hi, everybody, as I look over at my phone. But one of those things that we talk about mistake that business owners make is not starting today. Right. And so that's going to go along with, right, just putting off starting your business and not doing what you want to do. Some people can get stuck in that research after research after research, and the planning after planning after planning, and never actually get up and do. But I think that also comes into, the financial piece as well, of not starting today, right? Not planning for that outcome, not really focusing on what your goals are financially for your business, and what your goals are financially for yourself, and just kind of getting into the business and getting into the day-to-day. Even if you jump into the business and you do start today, but then you get into the day-to-day, but you don't start today planning those finances. So if either of you ladies want to jump in on that and talk about that, if you have any examples, anything that you'd like to share with that, and advice that you could give.
Sure, I'll go ahead and start. I mean, you hit such a good point, Siobhan, because a lot of times, especially small business owners, when we start a business, we're in it because we love to cook, right? Or we have a sewing skill, or we're a great consultant. So we have that passion, we have the skill, but we don't necessarily have the financial constructs or the infrastructure in place. And I always tell people, start with the end in mind, meaning start with a great system. You don't grow into a system. You start with a system that can grow with you. And Julie can, I'm sure, attest to this. This is your financial system, your bookkeeping system, your payroll, even your benefits. So paying yourself for the long run in retirement. So go ahead and start with the system. A lot of people say, I don't have money right now to do that. Well, how much is it going to cost you not to do it? How much money are you going to waste coming up with the system or not starting the system late? So absolutely start it today, structure it today. Know the difference between an LLC, a partnership, S Corp, C Corp. Know what structure that you need today, because again, it can cost you down the road if you don't do it today. So if you want to get out there and bake those cookies, get out there and bake those cookies for sure. But in going in line with the oven you pick and, the marketing that you want to have, also go ahead and put that financial structure in place.
I think that's so important, because like Natalie said, so many people they're doing something they love, and then people start paying them, and all of a sudden they're like, they have a business and they never even view themselves as a business owner, and they really don't know how to do business things, how to even set themselves up. So to me, it's so important to find trusted advisors for things. It's like, don't try and do everything yourself, especially don't think you're going to save money doing it all yourself. Don't go, am I allowed to say don't just jump on LegalZoom? Anyway, go to the people that know and invest in yourself and your business enough to get good advice so that you start off well. That's just, I can't overemphasize that.
Absolutely. Can I tell one true quick story just about myself? I started in bookkeeping. My first business, Lionheart Business Solutions, was a bookkeeping practice. And, my mentors were like, go ahead, you can start. So they just started giving up my number. And, I just started going to meet people. I didn't have a bank account open. I had not incorporated. So I literally all had checks that I had in hand that I couldn't cash because I didn't have a system. So you don't want to get so gung-ho and into the whole meat of the thing and then not have a structure in place. So of course, because I didn't have a bank account, I also didn't have a bookkeeping system. And this is the accountant, this is Natalie, financial advisor telling you now. So, I'm happy to show people the pitfalls and the mistakes that I made so that you won't do that. When you're ready, start today by starting the correct processes. Have a checklist, go do the research online. And gain a professional, just like Julie said. Again, you're wasting money, you're costing money to your business when you try to do it all yourself or you don't do it at all.
Well, I think some people are so overwhelmed. Like, it's one thing to be doing what you're an expert in, but then all of a sudden, so many people come to me, when they finally are kind of like, when push comes to shove, and they will admit, it's like, first of all, I should be able to do this. I should be able to do this myself. Or, I'm like, or they're embarrassed that they haven't done any bookkeeping, or they haven't filed their taxes for a couple of years, or, or they got a notice from the IRS, or, whatever. That happens. I see that regularly, but to an individual that's going through that, they feel like they're the only ones, or they're a failure as a business owner. That's not true at all. It's just, that's like talk to someone that knows. I mean, that's what I do. And I worked for an accounting firm before that. So I had the benefit of being able to ask all kinds of questions before I started on my own. But but that's why, it's really important to surround yourself with good information and not, it's just, if you feel overwhelmed about it, you are not the only one. Just definitely reach out. I mean, that's why, there's this community there, and everything where people we're all working on it together and growing together. There's so many things where one of the things that I did originally is I tried to hire somebody myself several years ago. Well, I mean, I did hire somebody, but it did not go well. They weren't the right person for what I really wanted. So this year, when I decided I was finally ready to hire again, I paid somebody to take me through the process, interview me, figure out exactly what it is I want and need that I can't even articulate. And she did all that with me. And it's been a much, much better experience. So just from my own personal situation, having the right person walking you through it is just so empowering, and it really helps.
So I appreciate both of exactly what everything you guys are saying when you're saying don't be afraid of it and don't feel like you're alone with it, because not only do I see it from people, but I experienced that myself, right? Like, oh no, I can't tell my accountant that I didn't, put everything down the way that I didn't separate my expenses correctly. I can't tell if you're supposed to tell anybody, you better be able to tell your accountant. They're not only going to find out about it. What did you say?
Your accountant and your lawyer.
Right. Well, it's better to talk to your accountant than later have to, go to a lawyer. That's right. You lawyers, Siobhan, really, you're like a deterrent for
Yeah, hate us until you need us. That's all it's.
But listen, I agree with that, and I was even on the phone with somebody today who was talking to me about stepping into a new process in their business. And it's an expensive proposition, but like we spoke about at the beginning, where I always speak about my dumb tax, that I paid so much money for over time to have to learn the lessons before I started saying, okay, let me go with what I know is going to work, or at least let me be smarter in the options and what I'm going to go forward with. And he said, when I said that to him, he said to me a little bit later, he said, well, yeah, I guess the question is, do I pay this now, or do I spend the next 5 years paying dumb tax before I pay for this? And that's really what it starts with. And it does talk, and it does speak into going to a professional, going to somebody that really knows what they're talking about, rather than somebody who is just going to be there. And you even get the opportunity to there's a lot of people out there that know, right? There's a lot of people out there that you can even just ask questions of, just to be guided towards the right answer or the right place for you. And also there's people that know, and then there's people that really know, right? There's people that know the letter of the law and what the book says. And then there's people that say, yes, but it's so much more logical. Like Natalie, you brought up knowing the difference between an LLC and a C Corp and an S Corp and a sole proprietorship. Like, not only do people not know about that stuff, but even after they've gone through it, they have either no clue, or they'll have somebody telling them, sure, you could do this, but nobody's telling them, well, you could do this, or you could do this, or you could do this, or, and this is the pros and cons of what it makes a difference for you. And those are the people you really want to go to. You want to go to people who are going to outline it, right? Because I'm sorry, I don't, just like people say, I don't speak legalese, I don't speak financialese either. I would rather go to somebody who not only speaks it, but is able to translate it into actionable items for me, or just tell me, and somebody I can trust, that I can say, okay, I'm going to pay you and you take care of it because there's a reason I didn't become an accountant. That's
right. And
that's not for me.
And that they're sitting down with you and finding out what you want, right? What your outcomes are, what your goals are, what your, what your plan is, what your purpose is for your business, and, really finding out about you, because that's then how you can get the right information from somebody for what is the best thing for you, what is the best plan for you, what is the best way to plan for your retirement or for your exit from your business or for all of those things that you want ultimately down the road. Because, I could go to Natalie or Julie and be like, here, I'm just going to pay you, take it over. But if, and they can do what they think is best. But if we've never had that conversation, they're doing what they think is best, or I'm just getting information, right? Like you said, Craig, you can go to somebody and they can be like, sure, you can do an LLC, but maybe that's not the right way for you to incorporate, right? What's the point of your business? What protections do you need? What type of liabilities are you going to have in the type of business that you have? And really getting that information sitting down with somebody, instead of just going to somebody to be like, sure, yeah, just go incorporate as an LLC and you'll be fine, right? There's that kind of advice out there all the time. So yes, having those mentors, those partners with you along the way as you're doing it, and getting the right way to do things is always the way to go. And like Julie said, remembering you're not by yourself, you're not alone. I think we've said that on every show, Craig, right? Like, you're not alone. That's why we're here. That's why we're talking about this. That's why we're talking about the mistakes that we've made, so that we can avoid 5 years of dumb tax for somebody else, right? So learn from our mistakes and don't make them, or make them shorter and less time than what we did, right? And then what we overcame. So, things like simple things like, be really careful who you give access to your bank accounts to, so that they don't steal $200,000 from you. And,
I'm sorry, Siobhan, did you have an experience that you want to share?
I think I've shared that one before. So, where they don't take $200,000 from you and almost put you out of business in the first year and a half. So, it's not being, you want to be trusting, but you've got to be cautious, right? It's like,
that's actually a big one though, because I can't tell you how many people are like, oh, here's my username and password to my bank account. I'm like, I don't really want that. Can you please set up like, a separate where I can just view it? You don't really want me in there able to transfer money. I'm not going to do that, but that's just best practice. So like, I have to, tell you best practice.
And it's amazing.
Sometimes you do.
Yeah, it's amazing. Amazing.
Sometimes you do.
Sorry.
No, please.
Yeah, I was gonna just say, just to Julie's point, don't be afraid to interview people. Don't be afraid to do background checks on people. I've heard that, Siobhan, more than once, more than twice, more than 3 times. I've been reviewing tax returns in the past. I was a tax preparer as well. And I said, hey, whose bank account is this? This doesn't match the one you gave me for services. They didn't know. How many years had that person been doing your taxes and taking your refund? You know what I'm saying? And it, and because they know business owners are busy. Business owners are oblivious. They know business owners don't know how to read their financial statement. And so it's important. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid. I have clients now and they come to me and they say, what questions should I ask my bookkeeper? Or what questions should I ask my attorney? And I give them a list of questions. Don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah, and that's awesome. That's amazing. And I know, Julie, you do coaching with a lot of your business owners and have plans where you where you meet with them. And you're right, Natalie, we as business owners, we are busy and we do want to, like, I just want to give Julie my login information and be like, just go handle my stuff, right? But that's not the right way to do it. Julie and I need to be meeting what I think, Julie, you would say, what, at least once a month, right? Where we're reviewing the
I
numbers.
usually
we're
meet
reviewing
monthly.
everything. Yeah.
Because a lot of my clients, it doesn't really require a lot. If we just get on the phone for like 10, 15 minutes each month and we're looking at the numbers, I mean, from my perspective, part of it is like, here's where you're at, here's what's going on. And if there's something we need to talk about, like some expense went up, we need to shop this price, insurance or whatever, or how can we get more, like which clients are doing really well, let's celebrate this, how do we get more of them? Should we have those conversations? From my perspective too, part of it is just getting business owners, because a lot of the ones that I work with never look at anything. So we're like transitioning to being, comfortable with this. And they're like, they don't even know that you can get these reports. It's like, yes, this is why QuickBooks is cool. Not because your accountant likes it. It's because we can actually, when there's stuff in there, we can look at that as numbers and like know stuff. But when just by looking at it, it shifts the energy. We're gonna find something. You're gonna make more money somehow just by looking at it and giving it your attention. So, just like, that goes back to starting with the end in mind, setting intentions, and then reverse engineering all of those things. See, for me, sometimes I'm like, I can't see the end. Just give me something to start with, and you help me see the end over time. And so sometimes I'm doing that with people. But it's a lot of it to me seems very basic, but there's a lot of business owners that the basic bookkeeping stuff isn't basic for them. So that's why I like, it's for me, it's like, it's kind of fun to just show people it, because it's not that complex when someone breaks it down for you.
Right. And it's also important to stay on top of it too. I mean, I watch my numbers daily.
I know you shared it, you like it now.
I love it now, which I never thought I
know.
would love, right? What my very first coach was like, once you get a hold of your numbers, you're going to be addicted and you're going to love them. And I'm like, that's never going to happen. I hate numbers. And now I love it. I watch my numbers all the time. But when you're watching them, frequently, I track my numbers at the end of every single week, right? What were my new clients? Where did my marketing work? What was my income? What was my expenses? And I look at every week, because that's where you figure out where you need to pivot, right? I'm heading for a cash crunch because this amount of money didn't come in. So what do I have to do next week to avoid that cash crunch? Because I've got payroll in another week, right? So you can really stay on top of it and start to avoid those pitfalls that a lot of business owners get in by, oh my God, I'm surprised by a cash crunch now because I just didn't pay attention to finances and to numbers. And then also to what Natalie does is, not just every single month, but years pass quickly, right? And so I'm now in my mid 40s, right? Retirement's coming very quickly and it just sneaks up on you year after year, right? And so it's like, oh, great. Now suddenly I'm 50 something and I have no money saved because I wasn't paying attention and I wasn't tracking and I wasn't looking at something. And so having somebody there on your side helping you with that, making sure that you're following these things and putting them first and in front of you all the time. Because as we always say, Craig, right? If it doesn't get measured, it doesn't grow. So what gets measured and monitored moves and it grows. And that's what we need to do. And that's why you need a great person behind you, bookkeeper and wealth manager and planner for your future so that you can measure and monitor those things.
So Natalie, what do you say to people who say, I don't even have any money. I don't have any money left over to save. And they're like, how do you get them to talk to you?
I say, let's sit down and really map out a plan, because you have to have some money somewhere, and if you don't, then that is a pain point. That is something we need to look at, because it's true. I was just listening to Siobhan, and a lot of people take money out of their retirement, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Right.
Big business.
Right. And so we need a plan to put that in place. So it's okay. Because I don't just manage money. I help you to grow your money. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I say to them. Like, you have to start somewhere, and you'd be amazed how a little bit over a length of time, right, can grow. It's just the whole, theory of compounding, right? And so And it's amazing, just little steps. I think Craig said it, processes, putting processes in place, automation. It's amazing how putting a little bit away automatically over time. So we can start wherever you are. Everybody doesn't have, the millions or the thousands or the tens of thousands or 100,000 to put away or they start with, right? Because you're growing this, you've got to get somewhere. But there is something you can do. I always say that most business owners are underinsured. They don't protect their assets well, and they don't have that retirement. And it comes quickly, like Siobhan says. You look up, your kids are grown. You look up, you spent 20 years pouring yourself into this business, and you go, man, am I going to have to pour another 20 years because I can't retire yet? So start somewhere. There is something I can manage.
And I think that's what it comes down to. Listen, first time I ever saw anything about finances, I was almost 40 years old. That was the first. I was 38 years old, 37, when somebody started pointing me in the direction of looking at what finances meant in my life. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe I should look at it. Maybe it's time. I have 3 kids. They're all in private school. Maybe it's time to start looking at things. There's an old comedian. I don't know if you guys remember Wanda Sykes. She's a comedian, and she always talks about, she's like, when Billy needed braces, and people talk about, we went to Jamaica. Oh, we didn't go to Jamaica. We got Billy braces. Billy, smile and show him Jamaica, and that's what it's like, But the idea that, like, even one of the mistakes that we spoke about on one of the calls that we started to talk about was thinking busy is productive, and that's part of the whole process, automating things. People think like, oh, as long as I spend all my time doing this. I had a gentleman that I was talking to a while back, and he is an older gentleman, not really into the whole tech world thing, still fighting it in his, 80 years old, has his own business. But he's been spending the last 10 years, when people have been trying to show him how to step in and do things, he goes into his office every single morning. 2 of US financial people will love this. Every single morning at 6 o'clock in the morning. And when the bank's open, the first thing he does is call the bank to see his bank balance every single day.
I'm sure they know him well. He's probably the only one calling.
Like, you're working with him to know that you can just log in really quickly and see that, right?
He wouldn't. It wasn't like a working relationship. It was somebody I know in my personal life, and I was just like trying, but no, would not. He had to have a handwritten checkbook for his business. Everything had to be done that way, and the just not knowing that, like, keeping busy is not being productive. Knowing that doing just your position, like you're talking about, Natalie, baking cookies or sewing or whatever, doing what you want to do is not the business in whole. There's other aspects to it, and we can work together with professionals, with people who really know what they're doing, that we can trust, that once we ask questions for it, once we do our background checks and recognize that there are people who can provide that value, that maybe we're just not there for. Like me, I'm not, like you talk about, not knowing the basics of bookkeeping and all that wonderful. I know a little bit now, but at the same time, it's knowing that I can go to people who I know and trust with the capabilities to say, these are the people that I'm going to ask my questions to, and these are the people that I'm going to listen to when I have something to follow through with. Knowing that that's not where I am. Siobhan and I sit on 2 different sort of ends of the spectrum, where we talk about artist and operator and entrepreneur. We both obviously are in the entrepreneurial spirit and owning our own businesses, but she's very much an operator, processes, manager, knows exactly how, when, and where. And I'm very much an artist. Like, I just want to see everybody be happy, I want everything to just run right and have a mission and purpose and serve, But yeah, it's not, it doesn't fit very well when you want to sit down in front of a spreadsheet, right? But it's understandable that every piece of the business has its place. Right. And that's why we go to those that we can trust and look to. So I appreciate your what you've shared, and I thank you for your time. I actually have a call that somebody is pulling me onto at this point in time. But yeah, I mean, I want to know, Siobhan, is there anything that you wanted to end with over here?
Oh, I was just getting ready to wrap up. I was going to say that, okay. Just like we're getting to our wrap up time. So And I think that was great points to end on. So ladies, thank you for being here. And Natalie, if somebody wants to reach you, how can they reach you?
They can reach out to me on the number on the screen, 813-373-6825. You may also call me at email me at natalie.freeman@edwardjones.com.
All right. And Julie, how can they reach you?
The easiest thing would be email julie@clarityfinances.com or my website, clarityfinances.com, to see more.
All right. And as usual, Craig and our numbers are on the screen. You can also reach us at leadershipbydesign630@gmail.com. If you have any questions, anything you'd like us to talk about on the show, you can DM us on Facebook. If you're watching us on Facebook, then you know how to reach all four of us because we are all tagged in the Facebook Live, and you can reach out to us and DM us there. And so Craig, do you want to give any other contact information before we wrap up and have any final to say?
That's all from me. I appreciate you. I would love to reach out to you both and speak to you about possible speaking engagements and opportunities that are definitely available to everybody here. And if anybody does want to, is in any sort of business or industry of real estate finance, development, investments of any sort, any legal, any place in the legal space or medical space, I'm always looking for people to shine out in various different speaking engagements. I would love to speak to you. Feel free to, again, reach out to me on Facebook, reach out to me directly on the phone number on the screen, and I'd love to catch up.
All right. So I think that
Amazing.
we will wrap up. So thank you, everybody, and we will see you next time.
Thank you guys so much.